This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
I'm Roby Brock. Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. Here are your top stories of the day. Late Monday, Simmons First announced another bank acquisition, a $462 million buyout of First Texas, holding company of Southwest Bank of Fort Worth. The acquisition pushes Simmons over $10 billion in assets. President Donald Trump started his first full week in office, signing an executive order to withdraw the U.S. from the proposed Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal. Trump's opposition to the TPP was a signature theme of his campaign, calling it, quote, a potential disaster for our country. The TPP was one of former President Obama's top diplomatic initiatives and was intended to lower tariff barriers in countries that accounted for about 40% of the world economy. The number of foreclosures in Arkansas last year largely unchanged from the previous year. That's according to a year-end report from real estate data provider Atom Data Solutions. There were foreclosure filings on 5,128 properties in Arkansas in 2016, compared with 5,120 in 2015. Northwest Arkansas, notably Benton and Washington counties, had a nearly 30% decrease from the previous year. Nationally, foreclosures fell 13% to fewer than 1 million for the first time in a decade. And 2016 could be the best year yet for the state's tourism and hospitality sector. According to the most recent data for the first 8 months of the year, hospitality collections in 17 Arkansas cities were up nearly 4% compared to the same period in 2015. Monteith McNulty, executive director of the Arkansas Hospitality Association, said the state's tourism and hospitality sector has been on a 2-year hot streak. Even as the final year-end numbers are being tallied, she and other tourism officials say the natural state is well positioned to keep that same momentum going forward in the coming year. And you can keep up with those top stories each and every day at our website at talkbusiness.net. Still to come, John Brummett, his reaction to the new president's first few days in office. We're back after this.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
We are now joined by John Brummett. It's Monday. It's John Brummett Monday.
Right.
We're back to Mondays with John Brummett.
I like to be on schedule.
I know you do.
Right.
President Donald J. Trump.
He is now president.
I want to hear you
yes.
say it.
President Donald J. Trump.
I love it. What's the J stand for?
I don't remember.
It's John.
Well, good.
Just like you.
Well, there we go. We got something in common. That and lovely long ties.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Describe the start of the Trump administration.
Trumpian. He started as himself.
Which means chaotic.
His inaugural address was combative and campaignish. It was basically the same kind of message delivered in the same tone that he had used during the campaign. And I know why. I mean, he is the first thing he has to do. Most presidents take office, they think they've got to reach out to everyone and be a president for everyone. He has concerns about people seeing him as a legitimate president with the issue of the Russians and Comey and the fact that he got 3 million fewer votes. And he can become a legitimate president if he performs well in office, but the first thing he's got to do is keep his folks happy. And they expected to hear that kind of thing from him. And so he and Mr. Bannon decided to give him the raw meat, and that's what we got. So there was that, and then there was the megalomaniacal, narcissistic, curious hypersensitivity to criticism about the size of his crowd, right, his audience, which is also Trumpian. That's what we've come to expect from him. But it's also in part his personal hypersensitivity, But it's also that same thing I just mentioned, his legitimacy. If he needs to be seen as a real and regular president.
But I don't sense there's any question that he is legitimately the president of the United States. No one's disputing the Electoral College vote.
I'm not disputing the Electoral College vote. I'm saying that if we're going to have to go there now, if Mike Pence goes on Face the Nation and says he got a landslide, which he didn't, and when you have various reports that the Russians effectively helped him and Comey effectively helped him, and people like me continue to say, as I'm going to say in tomorrow's paper again, he got fewer votes by a lot, by an entire 2%. You know, it was. Right. Then all those things contribute. Let's not say his legitimacy. You're right. His strength as president, his validity, his ability to be seen as a standard operating president. It sounds like legitimacy now that I've said it, but I'm trying to tone down the word. So
I think there's a better word out there. I don't know what it is. I don't have it on the tip of my tongue, but I don't know if legitimate is the word.
Full and operative perceived viability. Too much?
Yeah,
too wordy?
It's a little too wordy.
Okay.
You're going to have to go. You work on that.
I will.
You're a wordsmith.
I'll have one next Monday.
Let's talk about over the weekend we saw the Women's March. Some have called it the liberal Tea Party movement, even maybe it's the beginning or the nucleus or something. What do you think comes out of that public display of all of those people in cities, including Little Rock, marching in opposition to the president?
I have less an idea about what comes of it, which could well be nothing. It could have been a one-day exercise, than in the spontaneous energy that caused it to happen. I think there are a lot of people who have a hard time accepting that he won, not that he's not legitimate, but who see the world changing in remarkable ways with a Trump presidency and a Republican Senate making the nominations and the confirmations to take over the third branch of government in short order. Mm-hmm. There are people who are saying that things are spinning out of control by a president under the leadership of a president who did get fewer votes, and they wanted to be heard. They wanted to cry out. So they all came out, and for one day, they let people know, we're here, we don't like this, we don't have anything to do with this, and we want you to pay attention to us. Whether there's any lasting power like a Tea Party, whether there's any organizational effectiveness to come from it, I don't know. Being kind of a negative person, I kind of doubt it. And I will tell you this, when the lingering speech image from your rally is Madonna saying she's thought about blowing up the White House.
You did not say everything that she says.
Yeah, I can't say everything that she says, and I wasn't getting ready to. Okay. That's not, as a political movement, you've made a misstep right there at the start.
Let's take a quick commercial break. I want to come back and talk about alternative facts.
All right.
And we're going to talk about some of the first moves of the Trump administration, too.
Okay, we're going to deal in facts or some alternative facts?
Both.
Okay.
He's John Brummett. I'm Roby Brock. We're back after this.
Circuits turn on the lights by making a connection, by closing the loop. At Entergy, we believe our economy is circular too. What you put in comes back. So we invest billions in new infrastructure, which helps attract new industry, which helps create new jobs. We partner with local communities to electrify the economy. And together, we power life. Entergy.
When was the last time you felt free? It's time to uncover that feeling again with the compassion of a cross and shield, accepted by over 90% of doctors and specialists, and the power of a card that opens doors in all 50 states, giving you the freedom to love, to dream, to dance like no one is watching. Arkansas Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Live fearless.
And welcome back. I'm joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. All right, let's talk about alternative facts. The Sean Spicer press conference on Saturday, Kellyanne Conway's appearance on Meet the Press on Sunday, and then we've had a subsequent much different press conference on Monday.
Spicer did not have a press conference on Saturday.
That's
He
true. He
came
made
out
a statement.
and read a blustery statement and then went away with looking as like he had a suit almost as ill-fitting as some of the ones I wear on here. Alternative facts. You know, I think it was Moynihan, Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who told somebody in debate, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts." And I've heard that much of my adulthood. We're now in another era when facts are negotiable, not negotiable. Facts are matters of perception.
Is that okay?
No.
Why
no.
is that not okay?
No. Facts are facts. I mean, there are.
But you can interpret facts differently.
Yeah. Well, we can. Yeah. And I was getting ready to explain.
Okay. Well, please.
You can interpret facts in different ways, but you cannot argue that facts are optional or facts are alternative. You have to agree on a set of facts in order ever to have a meaningful debate that will lead to some sort of resolution, or at least some sort of civil discourse about the disagreement. Unless that's not what you want.
So what do you think they want?
Roby, I'm going to go right back to what I said before. They want, and I'm not going to use the word legitimate, I'm looking for another word. They want to be taken seriously as president. They want to overcome all this talk about the Russians helping them and Comey helping them and not getting as many votes, popular votes as she did. They want to be serious, and when the press says this is the most pitiable turnout for an inauguration we've ever seen, and he's gone over to the CIA to try to make up with people he called incompetent or criticized, then they feel they need to push back against that. But this idea of creating their own alternative facts, it's at least, at the very least, let me be kind, it's creative.
Okay.
Spicer today said, well, yes, when they asked, do you really believe that President Trump's inauguration was the most watched ever? He said, yes. You take the TV ratings, then you take all the networks that watch, and we can see that from Nielsen. You see the other. Then you think about all the online streaming that's going on, and look at everybody who's got a pad or a phone or a laptop, and how many people. Those things aren't quantifiable. He can't prove it. But the point is, who cares? All he had to say, Trump or Spicer, is the working people elected me, and they're either working or they don't have any money because they've been laid off. And I'm working to fix that. Yeah. That's all he had to say. It's an ill-chosen, I understand why they feel they have to do it, to, in a way, kind of pump up their presidency, but it's ill-chosen. Today, Newt Gingrich said something for the first time ever I agree with. He said, if.
The first time ever.
First time in my memory.
Please.
He said, if he's got two things to do, said of his friend Donald Trump. He's got to keep America safe, and he's got to create jobs. If he does those two things, the rest of this is noise.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. But the person making the noise, needlessly, is Trump himself. Trump needs to take Newt Gingrich's own advice. And I'm telling you, he can reconstruct, he can have a successful presidency, even with all of these flaws that I see, if those two things happen.
Well,
it's that simple.
To that point, safety and jobs. So here's two early moves in the Trump administration. We're going to get out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That is a trade deal that he railed against on the campaign trail. He's made his point on that. And there is talk that he wants to move the Israeli embassy, or the American embassy in Israel, to Jerusalem, which will cause some disturbance in the Middle East. But he's making a statement about strength and security, I think, in doing so.
Which are the statements he needs to be making, rather than sending this guy out to argue about the size of his crowd. I disagree personally with both those decisions. I think that trade agreements are generally the way we need to go. But he was elected by people who resented him, and he vowed to undo them, and he also has vowed to renegotiate NAFTA, and I look forward to that. Now, Obama, he's gone now. I know he's not the president anymore, but he said moving that, just declaring you're going to move that embassy, just invites all sort of unintended consequences and problems. And he said any sort of abrupt change in that part of the world needs to really be thought through carefully before pronouncements are made. But that's not the way Donald Trump has operated thus far. I'm less concerned about moving it, if that's what he chooses to do, than whether sufficient attention has been paid to the diplomatic needs to talk softly and carefully about it.
Tell me what your Tuesday column's about.
Oh, this one, the Trump people are going to love this one. I'm going to explain, as I just told you a minute ago, why all those people spontaneously, by the hundreds of thousands, were out in the street over the weekend. Do you know that a president, bear with me on this, I know it's one more time, it is a fact, he got 2.9 million fewer votes than his opponent, will now nominate for confirmation by a U.S. Senate, while 52-46 Republican, the Democratic members in that Senate cumulatively, in the aggregate, got 17 million more votes than the Republicans.
I've seen your spin on all of this.
You've got a minority, you've got a second place president making Supreme Court nominations for confirmation by a second place legislative to take over the judicial.
They won the states, though, that they had to win.
I'm not arguing that point. Do you understand? I'm not arguing that point.
I understand what you're saying,
They won
but
the
you're
race.
taking facts and you're applying a different logic
I'm
to it.
explaining why there is great pent-up frustration about
Gotcha.
this guy and about what's happening. Because when you outvote, when the exact opposite happens from what the majority of votes intended, somebody ought to take note of it. And I thought I would do that. And that's what I'm doing.
But you don't have a remedy for it.
I'm not, I don't want to change the U.S. Senate. I like the Republic form of the, I'd love to do away with the Electoral College, but we're not going to, because the Republicans depend on it to win the presidency, and they're in charge. It's a catch-22, sort of.
You going to have any shortage of columns to write over the next couple of months?
I told the editor earlier today, the online column for Wednesday, I like it so much, let's rerun it in print. And in a couple hours I said, no, I've got some more things to run. So there's plenty to write about.
You're going to be like Donald Trump making news. You're just going to have so much we can't keep up. An avalanche of columns. It's a good place to be.
Well, it's good to
I
be.
told you you'd like President Trump. I knew you'd like this administration.
I don't necessarily agree with that phrasing. But it's good for the news business, even as he assails it as lying and the most dishonest people in the world. That's us.
Well,
did you know that?
I think he was speaking to you. He wasn't talking about me.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right.
John Brummett.
All right.
Always good to be with you.
My pleasure.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to Talk Business and Politics Daily. We'll see you tomorrow.